live. Hi. Hello again. Hello again. It's Alison Arngrim again, live in the living room. And it's like monkey. It's like monkey is here. Yes, he's farmer boy clothes. So we are back, and it's Sunday, and let's see. Oh yes, I have a bonnet. Yeah. And I've got, do we have snacks? I have milk and cookies. Netherlands says, yes, Netherlands. Hi Netherlands. And Canada. And pretty much the whole ding dang world, so that's good. So for Sunday, do a short one, just a short one. I read all day here. Because like I said, gotta leave something for Dean Butler. Still, Farmer Boy. It's like he is gonna be reading this for months. Farmer Boy, and this is an awesome chapter for Sunday. Because it's his birthday. This is the birthday chapter for young Manzo, as in manly. Do you know why he's called Almanzo? I mean, I know we were like, Almanzo on the show. Because, I don't know, we're dumb. People are like, why on the show did you all call him Almanzo instead of Almanzo, his name? We've been throwing Lucy Lee Flippin, who played Eliza Jane. We've been blaming her, throwing her under the bus, and say she did it. She was the first one. She said Almanzo, and then it just like stuck. I don't know. I know that we were a bunch of actors in California, many of whom hadn't read the books, and who certainly did not know the history of Mr. Almanzo, Wilder's real name. And so we went, hey, Almanzo, it sounds good to me. And we just like kept going, and nobody noticed. The reality is that Almanzo was named for a friend of the family. It was an old family name because allegedly, according to the Wilders, one of the Wilder ancestors, his life was saved during the Crusades, really, by a guy named Almanzo. And so it is in fact an Arab name, is what Almanzo is from. It's from Almanzor. I don't know. I didn't make that. I make this stuff up. This is what they tell me. So there you are. So it is Almanzo. And it's his birthday today. So next morning, while Almanzo was eating his oatmeal, Father said this was his birthday. Almanzo had forgotten it. Who forgets their birthday? Who forgets their birthday when they're a kid? Who does this? But, there you go. He was 9 years old that cold winter morning. Well, I guess back then they didn't quite make the fuss that we make, I don't know, here, knocking the couch over, that we make about birthdays. So maybe that was it. They didn't have big parties and he just kind of went, I don't know when it is. But it was winter. So, I don't know, Capricorn, January, December. There's something for you in the woodshed, Father said. Almanzo wanted to see it right away, but Mother said if he did not eat his breakfast, he was sick and must take medicine. So then he ate as fast as he could, and she said, don't take such big mouthfuls. Mothers always fuss about the way you eat. You can hardly eat any way that pleases them. But at last breakfast was over, and Almanzo got to the woodshed. There was a little calf yoke. Father had made it of red cedar, so it was strong and yet light. It was Almanzo's very own, and Father said, yes, son, you are old enough now to break the calves. And this is like a huge thing. This is like getting, Nintendo or, PlayStation, skateboard. I got a calf yoke. Okay. Almanzo did not go to school that day. He did not have to go to school when there were more important things to do. Well, he didn't get the day off because it was his birthday. He got the day off because they needed him to train some cows. Which to him was like, yay, birthday! I get to work with cows. Because he really did like the cows. So he carried the little yoke to the barn, and Father went with him. Almanzo thought that if he handled the calves perfectly, perhaps Father might let him help with the colts next year. Because, he really loves those horses, yeah. Star and Bright were in their warm stall in the south barn. Their little red sides were sleek and silky from all the curryings Almanzo had given them. They crowded against him when he went into the stall and licked at him with their wet, rough tongues. They thought he had brought them carrots. They did not know He was going to teach them how to behave like big oxen. They're thinking they get a treat, and he's like, surprise! And Father showed him how to fit the yoke carefully to their soft necks. Now, he did say he made it out of cedar, so it was like super light. So he's not like putting a giant ox yoke on the baby calf. He must scrape its inside curves with a bit of broken glass till the yoke fitted perfectly and the wood was silky smooth. No splinters. Yeah. Then Almanzo let down the bars of the stall, and the wondering calves followed him into the dazzling, cold, snowy barnyard. Father held up one end of the yoke, while Almanzo laid the other end on Bright's neck. Then Almanzo lifted up the bow under Bright's throat and pushed its ends through the holes made for them in the yoke. He slipped a wooden bow pin through one end of the bow above the yoke, and it held the bow in place. Instructions on how to put a yoke on your cow. Okay. Bright kept twisting his head and trying to see the strange thing on his neck. But Almanzo had made him so gentle that he stood quietly, and Almanzo gave him a piece of carrot. Star heard him crunching it and came to get his share. Father pushed him around besides Bright under the other end of the yoke, and Almanzo pushed the other bow under his throat and fastened it with its bow pin. There already he had his little yoke of oxen. Then Father tied a rope around Star's nubs of horn, tiny baby horns, and Almanzo took the rope. He stood in front of the calves and shouted, "Giddy up!" Star's neck stretched out longer and longer. Almanzo pulled till finally Star stepped forward. Bright snorted and pulled back. The yoke twisted. Star's head around and stopped him, and the two calves stood there wondering what it was all about. So here they are, trying to get these two little baby cows into a big ox yoke, and they have no idea what the heck is happening. And it's a little bit mean, but at least they got a little baby cow yoke, so they're not torturing them too severely here. Father helped Almanzo push them till they stood properly, side by side again. Then he said, "Well, son, I'll leave you to figure it out." And he went into the barn. Remember, this is the dad who is like, oh, they're going to kill the teacher. Well, that's his business. So he's like, here's your cows, here's your yoke. Happy birthday. Here, spend all day in the snow trying to get cows to behave, because that's her present. Then Almanzo knew that he was really old enough to do important things by himself. That's what he wanted. He likes this. He loves this. He stood in the snow and looked at the calves, and they stared innocently at him. He wondered how to teach them what get up meant. They didn't even know giddy up. There wasn't any way to tell them, but he must find some way to tell them. Now, when I say get up, you must walk straight ahead. Almanzo thought a while, and then he left the calves and went to the cow's feed box and filled his pockets with carrots. He came back and stood as far in front of the calves as he could, holding the rope in his left hand. He put his right hand into the pocket of his barn jumper. Then he shouted, "Get up!" And he showed Star and Bright a carrot in his hand. Well, yeah, okay. You've heard of, do you use carrot or a stick? Well, he figured out. Carrot, it's the way to go. They came eagerly. Whoa! Almanzo shouted when they reached him, and they stopped for the carrot. He gave each of them a piece, and when they'd eaten it, he backed away again, and putting his hand in his pocket, he shouted, "Get up!" It was astonishing how quickly they learned that get up meant to start forward and whoa meant to stop. They were behaving as well as grown-up oxen when Father came to the barn door and said, "That's enough, son." Almanzo did not think it was enough, but of course he could not contradict Father. Calves will get sullen and stop minding you if you work them too long at first, Father said. Besides, it's dinner time. Almanzo could hardly believe it. The whole morning had gone in a minute. His birthday party is, hey, let's play with cows. But there you go. He likes it, and he's training the cows by giving them carrots. So it's a win-win. It's a win-win. So he took out the bow pins and let the bows down and lifted the yoke off the calves' necks. He put Star and Bright in their warm stall. Then Father showed him how to wipe the bows and yoke with wisps of clean hay and hang them on their pegs. He must always clean them and keep them dry, or the calves would have sore necks. In the horse barn, he stopped just a minute to look at the colts. He liked Star and Bright, but calves were clumsy and awkward compared with the slender, fine, quick colts. Their nostrils fluttered when they breathed. Their ears moved as swiftly as birds. They tossed their heads with a flutter of manes, and daintily pawed with their slender legs and little hoofs, and their eyes were full of spirit. "I'd like to help break a colt," Almanzo ventured to say. "It's a man's job, son," Father said. "One little mistake will ruin a fine colt." Almanzo did not say any more. He went soberly into the house. It was strange to be eating all alone with Father and Mother. They ate at the table in the kitchen because there was no company today. The kitchen was bright with the glitter of snow outside. The floor and the tables were scrubbed bone white with lye and sand. Wow, that's disinfecting your house, I'll tell you. The tin saucepans glittered silver, and the copper pots gleamed gold on the walls. The tea kettle hummed, and the geraniums on the windowsill were redder than Mother's red dress. Almanzo was very hungry. Okay, he's always hungry. This is clearly. Okay. He ate in silence, busily filling the big emptiness inside him while Father and Mother talked. When they finished eating, Mother jumped up and began putting the dishes into the dishpan. "You fill the wood box, Almanzo," she said, "and then there's other things you can do." Chores, 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 chores. Almanzo opened the woodshed door by the stove. There, right before him, was a new hand sled. Ah! Surprise! He did get a present. He could hardly believe it was for him. The calf yoke was his birthday present. He said, "Whose sled is that, Father? It isn't for me." Mother laughed, and Father twinkled his eyes and asked, "Do you know any other 9-year-old that wants it?" It was a beautiful sled. Father had made it of hickory. It was long and slim and swift-looking. The hickory runners had been soaked and bent into long, clean curves that seemed ready to fly. Almanzo stroked the shiny, smooth wood. It was polished so perfectly that he could not even feel the tops of the wooden pegs that held it together. There was a bar between the runners for his feet. Now, see, he did get a present. They didn't just say, "Hey, you're breaking calves for your birthday." They got him a sled, which is like an actual good 9-year-old boy birthday present. There you go. "Get along with you," Mother said, laughing. "Take that sled outdoors where it belongs." The cold stood steadily at 40 below zero. Oof! But the sun was shining, and all afternoon Almanzo played with his sled. Of course, it would not slide in the soft, deep snow, but in the road, the bobsled's runners had made 2 sleek, hard tracks. At the top of the hill, Almanzo started the sled and flung himself on it, and away he went. Only the track was curving and narrow, so sooner or later he spilled into the drifts. End over end went the flying sled, and headlong went Almanzo. But he floundered out and climbed the hill again. Several times he went into the house for apples and donuts and cookies. Of course he did. Do I have cookies? I have cookies. I don't have donuts. I do not have donuts. Probably have some apples, but I'm going to go with milk and cookies today. So he, downstairs, after he's had his donuts and cookies, downstairs was still warm and empty. Upstairs, there was the thud-thud of Mother's loom and the clickety-clack of the flying shuttle. Almanzo opened the woodshed door and heard the slithery soft sound of a shaving knife and the flap of a turned shingle. He climbed the stairs to Father's attic workroom. His snowy mittens hung by their string around his neck. In his right hand, he held a donut, and his left hand, 2 cookies. He took a bite of donut and then a bite of cookie. Donuts. Could you eat donuts and cookies together, literally, at the same time? Like shove donut in your mouth, and then that's just crazy. Father sat astraddle on the end of the shaving bench by the window. The bench slanted upward toward him, and at the top of the slant, 2 pegs stood up. At his right hand was a pile of rough shingles, which he had split with his axe from the short length of oak logs. He picked up a shingle, laid its end against the pegs, and then drew the shaving knife up its side. One stroke smoothed it, another stroke shaved the upper end thinner than the lower. Father flipped the shingle over. 2 strokes on that side, and it was done. Father laid it on the pile of finished shingles and set another rough one against the pegs. And you say, shaving, no, not like shaving. Here, see, he's got a little bench for making, sanding and shaving off the sides there. His hands moved smoothly and quickly. They did not stop, even when he looked up and twinkled at Almanzo. "Be you having a good time, son?" he asked. Now, I have not read anywhere that the Wilders were Amish, but they're doing all this, hey, be you lad. Now, mind you, it's way back, because as far back as stuff was when Laura was little, and like her aunts were wearing Civil War hoop skirts, remember Almanzo was like 10 years older. So it's the way back machine here. So I don't know, maybe it's just, and they were fancy. They were from upstate New York, so maybe they were hanging with the Amish and the Mennonite, because all this, be you good day, my son, Rudaha. They're all this Yoda backwards duck. So, be you having a good time, son? And he said, "Father, can I do that?" said Almanzo. Father slid back on the bench to make room in front of him. Almanzo straddled it and crammed the rest of the donut into his mouth. And that's where you see, yeah, he's letting him do the thing, he'll ride the thing with him, so that's cool. Little 2-man shaving crew here. Crammed the rest of the donut. He took the handles of the long knife in his hands and shaved carefully up the shingle. It wasn't as easy as it looked. So Father put his big hands over Almanzo's, and together they shaved the shingle smooth. Say that 3 times fast. Then Almanzo turned it over, and they shaved the other side. That was all he wanted to do. He got off the bench and went in to see Mother, who is weaving stuff. She's making cloth. Her hands were flying, and her right foot was tapping on the treadle of the loom. Back and forth the shuttle flew from her right hand to her left and back again, between the even threads of warp, and swiftly the threads of warp crisscrossed each other, catching fast the thread the shuttle left behind it. Clackety-clackety-clack. She's weaving. Thud, said the treadle. Clickety-clack, said the shuttle. Thump, said the handbar, and back flew the shuttle. Mother's workroom was large and bright, and warm from the heating stove's chimney. Mother's little rocking chair was by one window, and beside it a basket of carpet rags, torn for sewing. In a corner stood the idle spinning wheel. All along one wall were shelves full of hanks of red and brown and blue and yellow yarn, which Mother had dyed last summer. But the cloth on the loom was sheep's gray. Mother was weaving undyed wool from a white sheep and wool from a black sheep, twisted together. "Ooh, what's that for?" said Almanzo. "Don't point, Almanzo," Mother said. "What's that for? Stop pointing." "That's not good manners." She spoke loudly above the noise of the loom. "Oh, well, what is it for?" asked Almanzo, not pointing this time. "Royal, it's his academy suit," said Mother. Royal was going to the academy in Malone next winter, and Mother was weaving the cloth for his new suit. I told you these people were fancy. This is no Ingalls hanging out in the barn. This is, So everything was snug and comfortable in the house, and Almanzo went downstairs and took 2 more donuts from the donut jar, and then he played outdoors again with his sled. It's good he's burning all these calories, sledding and breaking oxen in the snow, because he's had like 8 freaking donuts and a plate of cookies, not counting breakfast. So I just, where is this child putting it all? Okay. Too soon the shadows slanted down the eastward slopes, and he had to put his sled away and help water the stock, for it was chore time. The well was quite a long way from the barns. A little house stood over the pump, and the water ran down a trough through the wall and into the big watering trough outside. The troughs were coated with ice, and the pump handle was so cold that it burned like fire if you touched it with a bare finger. This is called frostbite. Yes, you could touch something, you could hurt yourself very, very badly. boys sometimes dared other boys to lick a pump handle in cold weather. Almanzo knew better to take that dare. Your tongue would freeze to the iron, and you must either starve to death or pull away and leave part of your tongue there. Is Scotty online today? Okay, so how many saw the movie Christmas Story, where they do the flashback and the guy sticks his tongue on the pole, on the tetherball pole? Same thing, pump handle tether. In that daring people, this is still a dare in schoolyards where people dare people to go lick a pole in the snow and freeze their tongues. And it's still insanely dangerous. And yeah, so shout out to, of all people, Scotty Schwartz from Christmas Story, licking frozen metal like Almanzo's not very bright friends. There you go. Almanzo stood in the icy pump house, and he pumped with all his might, while Father led the horses to the trough outside. First, Father led out the teams, with the young colts following their mothers. Then he led out the older colts, one at a time. They were not yet well broken, and they pranced and jumped and jerked at the halter rope because of the cold. But Father hung on and did not let them get away. All the time, Almanzo was pumping as fast as he could. The water gushed from the pump with a chilly sound, and the horses thrust their shivering noses into it and drank it up quickly. Brr. Then Father took the pump handle. He pumped that big trough full, and he went to the barns and turned out all the cattle. Cattle did not have to be led to water. They came eagerly to the trough and drank while Almanzo pumped, and then they hurried back to the warm barns, and each went to its own place. Each cow turned into her own stall and put her head between her own stanchions. They never made a mistake. Are cows smarter than horses? Are cows smarter than horses? I don't know these things. Are cows? Maybe they are. Maybe the cows figure stuff out. Horses are a little wild. I never know these things. Here you go. Whether this was because they had more sense than horses, or because they had so little sense that they did everything by habit, Father did not know. So are cows smarter than horses that they figure out to go back to their spots in the barn, or are they dumber than horses that they just can't think of anything else and they go do-do-do-do-do? I don't know. There you go. Now, Almanzo took the pitchfork and began to clean the stalls, while Father measured oats and peas into the feed boxes. Royal came from school, and they all finished the chores together as usual. Almanzo's birthday was over. He thought he must go to school next day, but that night, Father said it was time to cut ice. Almanzo could stay at home to help, and so could Royal. That's the story for today. Yes, these guys live in a world where being told you get the day off from school to chop ice, to cut ice for the ice house, is like woohoo vacation. This is how hard things work. Oh, I don't have to go to school because I'm going to chop ice all day and break cows. Yay. That sounds pretty rough, but there you are. That's why Almanzo was a working fool. So, this is a hoot and holler, and it's Sunday, and I got stuff to do, and I got to leave some of the book for dear Dean Butler to read next week. You guys are awesome. Thank you again for popping in and doing this. I'm really enjoying this. In case you possibly hadn't noticed. Hello. Oh wait, guitar. Yes, the guitar. We have to be able to see the guitar. Look, it's a guitar. So I will see you again tomorrow on Monday, probably same time, 1:30, and we'll read some more, or I'll be saying, ta-da, Dean Butler, and we'll go over to his Facebook page. We'll figure it out. As I said, people have already gotten, some people got their bonnets on Saturday, and so certainly the mail's still going, rain or snow. So you'll get your stuff. And I see people are still ordering things. And like I said, we're getting stock in, so don't panic. I'll manage. I'll get stock in and I'll get stuff out. We'll make it. I don't have a staff. Do you don't see like a staff here, do you? No. We have. Who do we have staff? We have Sock Monkey, and we have the cat, And we have me and my husband Bob. So that's it. So we're putting out the package as fast as we can. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. And I'm gonna have some milk and cookies and do some stuff. And stay well and be nice to each other and wash your hands.